Hello, Ankit. Can you talk a little about your childhood, where you grew up? What was your background? What was the environment, fauna and flora that you were surrounded in your childhood, and the memories you had growing up?
Sure. Well, to start with my family, we are one of the oldest families of the Kulu Valley. If you open up the Kulu Gazetteer, which have been written by the British people, they have a mention of our family, which used to run the first bank, the first gunnery shop, the first wine shop, and so on. We're based in Sultanpur, which is where the palace of the king is. Later on, we moved to a place which was called Akhada Bazaar, and I'm 35 years old now. But to talk of Kullu in the last 35 years, one sees a great change. The major change that one sees is basically, of course, the population, which somehow, after in the 90s, when tourism, and later on in the 2000s, when the hydros became a big project in the valley, and the kind of people it brought in. So, yeah, the population pressures of the valley have increased a lot, and that has brought the most drastic change. Deforestation, lesser lands which were orchards or which were fields before, being converted into colonies, actual colonies, which people never dreamt of. The traditional Kathkuni style of the Kulu architecture, which was with wood and stones, earthquake-proof houses, really beautiful, giving way to, I would call, visual pollutions with these structures, cement structures everywhere. So a lot have changed, but luckily for me, I've been in the valley for quite a long time, and my area of operation is right from Rohtang down to Jalodi Pass, which encompasses the whole valley. And despite the pressures, there is still, luckily enough, nature here, which has stayed on. As the culture of the valley, this is called the end of the habitable world, and it was alienated from the rest of the world, and the culture has remained intact. The Devta culture, which is still very, very omnipresent everywhere in the valley, and despite every development, everything, that culture has still kept the valley intact.
Can you talk a little about Devata culture? That, how the gods still govern the villages of this valley?
Well, Kulu is also known as the Valley of Gods. Every village has its own god from the Indian mythology, represented here, and it's the gods of the valley are very humane. They have friends. They may like a particular god, they may not like a particular god. It's the whole concept of social mobilization which has been here for ages. Now, every god in the village is represented by two people. One is the pujari, which is more or less hereditary, looking after the god, its feeding, its bathing, and the daily chore. And the other one, which is more important, is the voice of God, or Gur, which can be anybody from the valley, or anybody from the village, or even the valley. Now that's not traditional. He is the voice of God. And since this valley is very spread out, there are villages which are almost 20 to 25 kilometers still from the roadhead. So yes, this Devta cultures, the Devtas, they command a lot of respect. They are the weather forecasters, they are the judges, they settle marriage disputes, they settle land disputes, they settle crime disputes, and through this voice of God, the Gurs, they are kind of, they still hold on to a lot of people. One of the best things that you can see is the Kullu Dasera, which is a very unique festival. Sadly for Himachal tourism, it has never been able to capitalize on it. But there you can really see, the importance of all these gods gathering in a particular place, paying homage to the main god, which is Lord Raghunathji, based in Kullu. Yeah, so I would say that the Devta culture is very, very much alive.
Now, to clarify what you're saying, the voice of God is somebody who goes into trance and takes the spirit of the God and speaks. God speaks through this human being, and this human being is completely unaware of anything that is said during that period while he's in trance. And when he comes out of trance, he can't remember anything that happened. And when he is in trance, his head moves from left to right at a speed that is not human. Is this correct? And can you...
Well, this is correct. This is how we see it in the layman's perspective. Now, if you be in one of these trances, then you'll feel this energy, this vibe, which is spread out amongst all people over there. It's not only the Gur, of course, he is a direct voice of God. And it's not like... which is it's special about this valley. It's if you see the Incas, or if you see any traditional hill people, or even Africa and these tribes, they also have similar instances where where they try to translate the voice of God. Yes, but sometimes you see such miracles that this particular person is jumping unbelievably high, or he's making movements which is not humanly possible, or he is speaking a language. For example, I have seen myself persons speaking French who can hardly speak Hindi, because some French person is doubting the whole thing which is happening, because for a layman from the cities, or even from the valley, it looks as if some kind of game is happening, and they call it khel also in the local language, which is a game, but that's the game of the god, and people believe in it, and people abide by it 100%, and that's special about this valley.
So the need of a legal infrastructure to govern the country, govern the villages, are almost non-existent, because all disputes and problems are resolved through the voice of God.
Well, more or less, yes. Because let us say for somebody who's from Vashisht, and the court being in Kullu, the courts as the legal structure of our country is, it's very difficult to kind of, so more or less all the issues are definitely taken care either at the panchayat level or definitely with the god. So very few cases really reach the legal, the so-called legal system in the valley. And it's not only with legal things, it's with he is also the god. The god is also the hospital. There's so much faith healing happening, because by the time you get to the only hospital, or or these centers, it's kind of a lot of problems are definitely taken care by the God himself. So yes.
Okay, talk about a little about your education, where you went to your primary education and advanced education.
Well, I did my schooling from Our Lady of Snows in the valley till I was young enough, where I was sent to a hostel in Shimla in a school called Bishop Cotton, which is one of the oldest schools in the country. After that, I changed my school to Naval Public School in Delhi, because we were selected on the basis of our merit. I did my graduation from the Government Degree College